Water is a different battlefield. You move slower, you see less, and if something goes wrong, well, you're permanently swimming with the fishes. It takes a certain kind of operative to handle everything that happens below the surface. Deep water, zero visibility, crushing pressure, or in the case of toys, stripped paint and rusty screws. Today, we are diving into GI Joe's Water Warriors, the H2O Heroes. Everybody knows just how essential water is to life, and with it covering over 70% of our planet, it's arguably the most important resource we have. So it's no surprise that in our favorite 80s cartoons, the seas and oceans were often prime targets for villains and the setting for major confrontations. Because of that, almost every team of heroes had their resident water guy. And GI Joe, America's highly trained special mission force, was no exception. In 1983, we were introduced to Edward W. Lealoa, codenamed Torpedo, the original Navy SEAL of the GI Joe team. Now, even though the file card literally spelled it out, SEAL, meaning sea, air, and land, 7-year-old me just assumed it meant, the animal. The one best known for balancing beach balls on its nose. I mean, it kinda made sense. SEALs were great swimmers, right? But as it turns out, Torpedo was way more than just the team diver. This guy was on a whole different level. A Navy SEAL isn't just a swimmer, they're elite soldiers trained to operate in virtually any environment. Underwater, on land, or dropped in from the sky. And that versatility defines Torpedo right from the start. While he specializes in underwater demolitions, scuba operations, and maritime combat, he's ultimately a do-anything, high-risk operative trusted with some of the team's most dangerous missions. Born in Aiea, Hawaii, Torpedo came into the military already highly skilled, a scuba instructor and by the age of 19, a black belt in Wushu, Kenpo, and Goju Ryu, the real-life inspiration behind wax on, wax off. As well as an expert with the balisong or Filipino butterfly knife, which instantly made him cooler to me as a Pinoy. But despite originating from a laid-back paradise, Torpedo lives with an almost obsessive level of discipline. Daily runs, intense workouts, constant training, and a strict vegetarian lifestyle. No Kahlua pig for this dude. It's that level of focus that earned him his place in the GI Joe team and set him apart right from the beginning. Torpedo is described as the consummate professional, logical, precise, and completely mission-focused. He does his job to the highest standard, often beyond expectations, but has little interest in social interaction or personal connection. That's led some of his teammates to view him as emotionally distant, even calling him a cold fish. But his quick judgment, fast thinking, and technical skill in the field earned him unwavering respect. Torpedo made his relatively modest debut in the Marvel Comics in issue number 13, where he's part of a rescue team sent to extract Stalker, Breaker, and Gung-Ho from Sierra Gordo. That said, the first time I really remember meeting him was a few issues later, where he helped defend the Joe base from a Cobra night attack, charging into battle in full scuba gear. And I mean, come on. I don't care how many times you spit shine that mask, you are not seeing clearly through that thing on land. And running around in flippers? Forget about it. Still, somehow Torpedo makes it work, taking down a Cobra soldier with a harpoon shot to the chest, which, if you ask me, is pretty hardcore. In the Sunbow cartoon, though, Torpedo makes a much more stronger first impression. He shows up in the Mass Device miniseries, piloting his own personal full-sized sub to lead a deep-sea Joe operation to retrieve a rare element from an ocean trench. Funnily enough, he's portrayed a bit differently here, not the quiet, cold fish from the file cards, but a surprisingly upbeat and cheerful dude, basically the life of the party. And what follows is not just an underwater clash with Cobra, but an encounter with deadly giant tube worms. And despite that personality shift, Torpedo still shows off what really sets him apart. His ability to think on the fly, or in this case, on the fins, proposing a temporary alliance with the Baroness so both sides can make it out alive. You could say the Joes had a whale of a time getting out of that situation. Thanks to Torpedo, who, true to his name, is fast, focused and highly effective in his element, eliminating threats with minimal error. And speaking of whales, let's cut to the next guy, a Joe best known for riding into battle in his very own whale. Cutter, pilot of the iconic GI Joe hovercraft, the Killer Whale. Skip A. Stone is defined first and foremost by one trait: persistence. Born in Kinsley, Kansas, a place literally 1,561 miles from both major U.S. coastlines, Cutter set his sights on a life at sea, even though it made absolutely zero sense. He enrolled in the Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut, proving early on that determination was going to define his career. That same drive carried Cutter through his time as a Coast Guard patrolman, where he built a reputation going after drug smugglers. And when Cutter realized that GI Joe didn't have a single Coast Guardsman on the roster, he pushed the issue relentlessly, badgering the top brass until they finally gave in and assigned him to the team, mostly to just get him off their backs. Now, aside from being the pilot of the Killer Warrior Hovering Assault Launching Envoy, or Killer Whale for short, widely considered by fans as one of the greatest GI Joe vehicles ever made, Cutter is also known for one very specific thing: his headgear. In a unit full of high-tech helmets, ninja masks, and berets, Cutter rolls into battle wearing a Boston Red Sox baseball cap. It gives him this distinct working-class mariner vibe that really sets him apart from the rest of the Joes. As for me, even if it's a completely different sport, being a lifelong citizen of Lakers Nation, blood running purple and gold, yeah, all I gotta say is, Boston. Which was probably exactly what was going through Storm Shadow's head when he drove his sword straight into Cutter's chest in the pages of the IDW GI Joe comics. Yeah, not exactly the ending you'd want for our favorite hovercraft driver, but to his credit, Cutter went out the way a Joe should, valiantly, fighting alongside Torpedo and providing cover for Snake Eyes as he pushed forward to rescue the next water specialist from some deep shit. Introducing the Joe's deep sea diver, Deep Six. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, more on that in a bit. Now, aside from both being introduced in the line in 1984, another similarity between Cutter and Deep Six is that they each came packaged with their own signature vehicle. For Deep Six, that was the Shark, the submersible, high-speed attack and reconnaissance craft. Cool vehicle aside though, Malcolm R. Willoughby is a specialist trained to operate in the most extreme underwater environments imaginable, and his path to the Joe team reflects just how elite he is. Out of 50 Navy divers who applied, only 12 made it past the initial cut, and after further testing, narrowed that field down to 4 finalists. Deep Six distinguished himself by holding his breath longer than anyone else. But it isn't just his unique skill set or his immense lung capacity that truly defines Deep Six. It's his personality. He's a complete loner. In fact, he became a Navy diver specifically so that he could be alone, preferring the crushing depths of the ocean over human interaction. He rarely speaks to his teammates and doesn't even bother remembering their code names. Even his code name reflects that identity. Deep Six is a naval term meaning to send someone to the bottom of the ocean permanently. And in many ways, that's exactly where he belongs, far below the surface in a world of pressure, darkness, and silence. It's a place most people would never willingly go, pure isolation. But for Deep Six, it's home. As Deep Six descends alone in his high-tech diving suit, the focus isn't just on the mission, it's on his thoughts. He calmly runs through every possible way he could die: pressure implosion, suit failure, fire suffocation, or being trapped under debris. And yet, despite that constant awareness of danger, he carries out his mission with precision. There's no panic, just calculation. And speaking of panic, there's definitely none of it when Deep Six finds himself trapped inside the USS Flag, his arm pinned as the ship rapidly takes on water. As Torpedo tries and fails to free him, Deep Six accepts his fate, even urging the others to leave him behind. But when Snake Eyes arrives, Deep Six agrees to be saved the only way possible, by having his arm cut off. Go ninja, go ninja, go! Now, while Deep Six was operating in the crushing depths below, the following year, 1985, Hasbro would blow us all away with something big. Really big. Because that was the year they didn't just expand the battlefield, they supersized it. We're talking not just about the largest GI Joe water vehicle, not just the biggest vehicle in the entire line, but the largest playset ever made, the USS Flag, the GI Joe team's aircraft carrier. And with something that massive, you're gonna need someone pretty important to command it, like, say, an admiral. Enter Admiral Keel-Haul, real name Everett P. Colby, from Charlottesville, Virginia. A 3-star vice admiral and the man in charge of GI Joe's sea-based operations. But what sets him apart is that he's not just a desk-bound commander. Keel-Haul built his reputation as a legendary fighter pilot, flying Phantom F-4s off the USS Intrepid in the late 60s. And he's one of the few carrier commanders who still takes to the skies himself. Whenever his ship is under heavy threat, Keel-Haul won't hesitate to personally fly into combat, piloting a Ghost Striker X-16 to defend the carrier. It perfectly captures who he is, a leader who doesn't just give orders from a distance, but steps directly into the fight when it matters most. Beyond that, Keel-Haul is portrayed as highly skilled and well-rounded, a respected military historian, a nationally ranked chess player, and a man with a few quirks, like being notably bad at the clarinet. He should have done more practicing with Destro and the Baroness. He's also mastered one of the toughest skills in aviation, landing a jet on an aircraft carrier at night. And if you've ever played Top Gun on the original NES, yeah, you already know that part was no joke. At the end of the day, Keel-Haul represents the peak of naval leadership within GI Joe, combining strategic command with frontline action. And you just know a guy like that has had to dish out his fair share of discipline over the years. Especially to a certain sailor who seems to have made a career out of testing authority. Because if Keel-Haul is the embodiment of order and command, the next guy is pretty much the exact opposite. Loud, brash, opinionated, and always ready to bend the rules. This is Hector X Delgado, better known as Shipwreck, the GI Joe team's quintessential sailor, a battle-hardened Navy man whose entire identity is rooted in life at sea. Born in Chula Vista, California, and raised around the San Diego Naval Yards, Shipwreck enlisted at the earliest age possible, reportedly even lying about it, setting the tone for the rule-bending and independent operator he'd become. From the start, Shipwreck proved himself in some of the harshest environments, including a tour in the Mekong Delta, targeting pirates, smugglers, and insurgents. Experiences that feel right at home with his animated debut. In the cartoon, he's introduced as a shady drifter hanging around a Cobra dive bar, crossing paths with Flint, Mutt, and Junkyard before helping them escape in his sand ship. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Desert Storm, man overboard. It's wild, but it works. From there, Shipwreck officially joins the Joes, settling into the role of the lovable rogue and the scruffy third wheel to Flint and Lady J's power couple. And it's in the Sunbow cartoons where Shipwreck really shines, often taking center stage in some of the series' most memorable stories. He poses as a flamboyant sax player alongside a glamorously disguised Snake Eyes, falls for Mara, the aquatic experiment-turned-Cobra defector, gets manipulated into becoming a Cobra-appointed colonel for the Joe team, leading to, well, disaster, and most notably is trapped in a synthetic future world designed to extract secrets from his mind. All of these crazy adventures, paired with constant wisecracks and of course his sidekick Polly, is what makes this loud, brash, unapologetic salty sea dog a breakout fan favorite. That being said, his file card paints a highly capable professional. Trained at Naval Gunnery School, Shipwreck is proficient across a wide range of weapon systems, and with a service record spanning global naval operations. In some versions, he's even pushed through Naval SEAL training, an attempt by his superiors to rein him in. From a rogue sailor to elite operator? Not a bad trajectory. Anyway, across every version, Shipwreck stays remarkably consistent, unpredictable, abrasive, but fiercely loyal and completely dependable when it counts. He may not fit the mold of a perfect soldier, and that's the point. Because while his name suggests disaster, Shipwreck thrives in chaos and always finds a way through, usually with a sarcastic remark and a story to tell. And speaking of stories to tell, from the toy shelf, let's keep things moving straight into 1986. A year that felt like a bit of a soft reset for the line, with several of the original specialists quietly swapped out for new faces. We got a new Ranger, a new Rescue Trooper, a new Snow Operative, and even a new, well, pretty obsolete Laser Trooper. And of course, a new SEAL. Enter Brian M. Forrest from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, codename Wetsuit. And while he shares the same designation as Torpedo, visually he's a complete departure. Gone is the dark, stealth-oriented look designed to blend into the depths. Instead, Wetsuit shows up in bright aqua green and orange, colors that definitely stand out. Now, to be fair, those colors do exist in the real-world naval operations, but not for combat. Bright, high-visibility tones like orange and yellow are typically used for search and rescue, deep-sea salvage, or hazardous environments. Situations where being seen is the priority. And interestingly, while search and rescue isn't listed on his file card, his gear, a motorized sea sled and searchlight, does seem to lean in that direction. But what the file card clearly defines is Wetsuit's personality. He's loud, abrasive, and completely lacking in social graces. Described as wild, unruly, and even 175 pounds of mean. But that rough exterior hides something most people overlook. Beneath it all is a highly intelligent and well-read operator with deep knowledge of classical literature, military tactics, and even Russian history and culture. His attitude makes him easy to dismiss, but in reality, he's one of the quickest thinkers on the team, which is exactly what you want when you're handling explosives underwater with limited oxygen and zero room for error. Another defining aspect of Wetsuit's character is his relationship with the team's new Marine, Leatherneck, something that really comes to life in the Sunbow animated series. In many ways, they take over the buddy pair role from Alpine and Bazooka. But where that duo had more of an of mice of men dynamic, Wetsuit and Leatherneck are built on pure friction. Baby. Their relationship is all arguments, trash talk, and constant one-upmanship, mirroring the real-world rivalry between the Navy SEALs and the Marine Corps. On the surface, it feels like they can't stand each other, but underneath it all is absolute trust. When things go south, they always have each other's back. The arguments never stop, but that's the point. It's how they push each other, how they communicate, and how they stay sharp. And you see that best in the episode My Favorite Things, when Leatherneck is poisoned by Serpentor when he tries to rescue Wetsuit. Wetsuit is forced to step up. To get the antidote, he has to confront his own fear of snakes, going as far as letting Serpentor's pet bite him just to secure the venom needed to save his teammate. At his core, Wetsuit represents a very specific kind of soldier, someone built for the harshest environments, who gets the job done no matter how rough the approach. And in the simplest terms, just like the gear he's named after, a wetsuit keeps you alive and functional in cold, dangerous waters. And that's exactly what Wetsuit is. And speaking of simplest terms, do you know how I define a friend of the toy shelf in the simplest of terms? Well, these are the lucky peeps who get to enjoy shoutouts, early access, and occasional exclusive content, all for the measly price of $1. Yep, that's all. So, if you're enjoying the stuff on my channel, why not consider helping me out just a little bit more? All you've got to do is click that join button on my homepage and you're a go. Sago. That being said, as always, you're not under any pressure. Any way you choose to support the channel is truly appreciated. So, thank you. And that pretty much covers the main water guys on the Joe team. But not all of them. So with that in mind, let's dive in a little deeper. 1990 gave us two more sea-adjacent operatives. The shoreline defender from New York City, Dwayne A. Felix, codenamed Rampart, and the Navy assault seaman from Fort Wayne, Indiana, John Blanchette, codenamed Topside. Now, Rampart's defining trait is his insane reflexes and hand-eye coordination. As a teenager, he practically lived in arcades, mastering just about every video game out there. This experience sharpened his ability to quickly analyze movement and react faster than anyone else, as well as making him a master of smashing mushrooms and kicking turtle shells. Just kidding. Looking for a real challenge, Rampart enlisted in the Navy and specialized in air defense artillery. Before long, he racked up the highest combat success ratio in the 7th Fleet for taking down enemy aircraft, basically turning gamer instincts into elite-level military performance. And they said video gaming would lead to nowhere. His codename fits perfectly. A rampart is a defensive wall meant to stop enemies in their tracks, and that's exactly what he is. Not a structure, but a one-man defense system, intercepting threats before they even reach their targets. Now, Topside, on the other hand, comes from a very different background, but oddly enough, shares a bit of that cutter energy. Aside from the facial hair and matching life jackets, Topside grew up far from the ocean as well, on a farm, raising prize-winning pigs and earning a reputation as a hog master. But by age 20, he was ready for something bigger than country fairs and bacon. Topside enlisted in the Navy and, despite being a total landlubber, adapted quickly, starting as a deckhand before moving into Navy security, eventually becoming a master at arms. His big break came while serving on a ship transporting a GI Joe team. After their deployment, Topside intercepted enemy communications and warned them of an incoming ambush, an act of initiative and courage that earned him a spot on the roster. Topside is described as born tough, the kind of guy who can take a full-force punch and not even flinch. His farm roots show up in his personality too, with his no-nonsense attitude and his own way of describing combat, like wrestling a greased pig in the dark. Chaotic, unpredictable, but right in his wheelhouse. Road pig, beware. His codename ties it all together. Topside refers to the exposed upper deck of a ship, the place where you face the elements and where the action happens. And that's exactly where he operates, not behind the scenes, not below deck, right out in the open. Now, by this point, I'll be honest, I was kind of out of the GI Joe figure game and had moved on to racing mini RCs. So yeah, I never really followed Rampart and Topside's adventures in the much heralded GI Joe Deke series. But I did learn that Rampart's story did take a pretty dark turn in the Devil's Due comics years later. While on assignment in South America, Rampart, along with fellow Joes Hardball and Glenda, is abruptly killed by agents of the Red Shadows, a mysterious new faction making their presence known by taking out both Joe and Cobra operatives alike. And unfortunately, they wouldn't be the last. Christopher R. Groen from Helena, Arkansas, codenamed Tracker, was the Joe team's third Navy SEAL, introduced in 1991. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tracker? That sounds rather basic, but I mean, what else would you call a guy whose defining skill was his nearly unmatched ability to follow a trail, no matter how impossible it seemed? We're talking about someone who was able to track down Spirit, a Native American tracker himself with almost supernatural instincts, and Snake Eyes, the team's top-tier stealth commando, and Ninja in under 12 hours. That's something no one else had ever managed before, so yeah, I'll give it to him. Tracker works just fine, although I gotta admit his original working name, Bloodhound, did sound a lot cooler. Now, Tracker's ability to hunt down ninjas and master trackers isn't exactly why he's on this list. It's not the outfit either, which had a rather sporty American football vibe topped off with that strange Cyclops-style visor. And it wasn't even the fact that he was only the second Joe I shared a name with, Chris. It was the gear, because Tracker came packed with a literal inflatable raft complete with a pair of oars, which gave him some legit water ops credibility. And let's not forget, he was a Navy SEAL, so there. Now, you might have noticed that I've been talking about Tracker in the past tense. And yeah, unfortunately, there's a reason for that. Tracker is no longer with us. Yup, in the Devil's Due comics, Tracker becomes another casualty of the Red Shadows, gunned down in cold blood on a beach while heading out to surf. And so as far as Tracker was concerned, that was pretty much it. Pansit. Yeah, I know. That one's a bit of a downer. Something that can be said for our next guy, too. Daniel R. Alexander from Norfolk, Virginia, codename Wet Down. Growing up near a naval base, Wet Down was obsessed with ships at an early age, enlisting in the Navy the moment he could. He tore through training, eventually becoming the youngest Navy SEAL in history. And unlike most Joes who tolerate water missions, Wet Down lives for them. He genuinely loves the ocean and is always the first to volunteer for anything that gets him into it. Add to that his skill as a martial arts instructor, and you've got someone just as dangerous in close combat as he is underwater. Now, as far as water guys go, Wet Down is a bit of a letdown. I mean, Hasbro couldn't even give this guy his own unique look. Torpedo? Is that you? So yeah, let's dive into someone with a little bit more depth. Pun absolutely intended. Nick H. Langdon from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, codename Depth Charge, the GI Joe's premier underwater demolitions team specialist. The guy who goes in first to scout enemy waters, disarm mines, and clear explosive threats before the rest of the team even arrives. On paper, he sounds like an absolute aquatic badass with some of the highest recorded scores in scuba, airborne, and explosive ordnance disposal. If there's a bomb underwater, he's the guy you want handling it. But here's the twist that defines him. When it comes to water, Depth Charge hated it. Depth Charge despises swimming, hates pools and hot tubs, avoids puddles, and can't stand the smell of the ocean or even the sound of seagulls. He's an elite naval operative who is fundamentally grossed out by the very environment he works in. So, why does he do it? Well, because his commitment to the mission outweighs everything else. He pushes through that discomfort because he loves the fight, especially storming enemy beachheads, which conveniently is also the fastest way for him to get out of the water and back onto dry land. And speaking of storming beaches, that's exactly what Depth Charge does on his very first mission as a full-fledged Joe, leading a coastal assault on Cobra Island alongside the last water specialist on this list, amphibious warfare expert David Adcox, codename Mariner. The ultimate GI Joe understory. Unlike most Joes who came in as fully trained specialists, Mariner earned his spot the hard way. He started out as a green shirt, one of the regular unnamed supporting troops doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes. Basically, the Joe's version of Star Trek's crimson uniformed expendable personnel. But through sheer grit in some of the toughest battles of the Devil's Due era, Mariner didn't just stand out. The guy survived. His leadership and performance eventually earned him a promotion to the main roster as the team's amphibious warfare specialist. What really sets Mariner apart, though, is that blue-collar working man energy. He's not flashy. Well, aside from those electric blue tiger-striped pants straight out of an 80s glam band. But he gets the job done. And in the same Cobra Island mission with Depth Charge, the two work together to create a full-on coastal distraction, drawing enemy attention while their teammates slip in to complete the real objective. At the end of the day, Mariner represents the ultimate bootstrap Joe, the guy who proves that even a background soldier can rise through the ranks and become a full-fledged real American hero. Anyway, aside from being the only green shirt on this list, there's one more detail that really sets Mariner apart, and unfortunately, it's not a great one. He's the only Water Joe in this episode who never got an action figure. Which is kind of a shame because I would have loved to see those electric blue pants in plastic form. That being said, since we're already on the subject, let's take the plunge into some toy talk, shall we? Starting with the action figures we got in the classic 1/18th scale. Despite being the OG seal of the team, Torpedo only received one figure in the entire original A Real American Hero line. After that, it was off to the dark ages of GI Joe between 1995 and 2007, where Torpedo kind of drifted, popping up here, there, everywhere in random releases, including a couple of land-based versions, which, to be fair, tracks. SEAL does stand for Sea, Air, and Land. Now, where's my jetpack jump Torpedo? But in 2008, the 25th anniversary line finally brought Torpedo back to form with a proper update in his classic black and gray, along with a brighter variant for those who wanted a bit more pop. and one last release that stayed true to the original look, only better for the 50th anniversary. Cutter had a similarly quiet run. After his debut in 1984, he didn't get another single-carded figure until 1992 as part of the Drug Elimination Force or DEF subline. That same mold was reused in 1993, released with a new ride, the Shark 9000, and then again in 2008 for the 25th anniversary. Though that version felt more like a rushed kit bash than a proper update. I mean, Gung-Ho's head with a painted bee on the hat? Yeah, that definitely does not cut it. Deep Six, on the other hand, leaned hard into gimmicks early on. His original figure traded articulation for a play feature where you could pump air into or out of him to make him rise or sink in the water. Less action figure and more bath toy. Thankfully, later versions gave him proper articulation, starting in 1989 with a more traditional deep-sea diver look. He got another overhaul in 1992 as part of the Eco Warriors line, with what looked to be an ice block for a helmet. Oh, and a new buddy, Finback, who's supposed to be a dolphin, but I don't know, gives me strong undead zombie vibes. Yikes. And finally, a bright yellow mail-away version in 1993. The 25th anniversary era brought Deep Six back again in all his non-articulated air-pumping glory. Fortunately, a properly articulated version followed soon after, and one that was essentially a torpedo repaint that would close things out for this diver. Now, Keel-Haul, he was a toy on a whole different level of hard to get, as his original figure only came packed with the USS flag, meaning if you didn't have the biggest playset ever made in your house, you didn't have him. Thankfully, Hasbro finally released Keel-Haul as a single-carded figure in 1993 as part of the Battle Core line, with a brand spanking new blue jacket. And years later, he returned as a Collectors Club exclusive in 2014. No aircraft carrier included, but hey, at least he came with a flag. Shipwreck, on the other hand, had no such shortage. Being one of the most popular characters in the line, he ended up with a ton of releases. Too many to cover without wrecking this video. So instead, I'd like to highlight his 1994 version where he was upgraded from sailor to full-on Navy SEAL and looked like a straight-up diver. And fun fact, even outside GI Joe, a slightly altered version of this figure lived on as the character Stinky Diver from Nickelodeon's Action League Now. Then in 2007, Shipwreck returned in the 25th anniversary line with updated sculpting that stayed true to the classic look, and which was leveled up in 2009, along with a few more tactical variants, ditching the bright sailor shirt and hat for a darker, more combat-ready commando sweater or woolly pulley, and a beanie knit cap, which would sort of form his widely accepted secondary, more modern look. As the second official seal of the team, Wetsuit had a pretty deep run too. His original 1986 figure with that bright high visibility color scheme was reused and redecoed multiple times, including a silver version for the Toys R Us Mission Brazil set, then later in black and neon green, gray, and finally once again back in black in the early 2000s. But it was in 1992 that Wetsuit finally got a brand new sculpt, complete with a removable helmet, an updated sea sled with spring-loaded missiles, and in place of a searchlight, a much more practical harpoon. I mean, who needs to see anything in the depths when you can just spear whatever comes your way, am I right? That figure was re-released in 1993 with darker colors, and if it looks familiar, that's because I flashed that same mold earlier as another version of Torpedo, released in 1998. And by 2002, Wetsuit got what might be his best pre-25th anniversary figure, a more modern-looking design which some may find a bit much, but hey, he came with his own personal enemy, the Cobra Moray. As for Wetsuit in the 25th anniversary line though, it was a bit of a mixed bag. While inspired by the original, it did miss some key details and ended up feeling more like a repainted Torpedo. Turns out it was originally meant to be a scuba version of Duke. You know, a Scooby-Dooby-Duke! Sorry, I'll let myself out. So, that was changed at the last minute. Personally, I didn't mind. I was just happy to get a 25th anniversary version of Wetsuit. I just made a few tweaks to my figure to bring it closer to the classic look. Anyway, before that era wrapped up, we got 2 more versions of Wetsuit, a more real-world, aka looking more like Torpedo version 1 in the Rise of Cobra line, that came with its own dragonfish water sled, and another land-based version from a Mission Brazil 2 convention exclusive set, where he traded in his wetsuit for a dry one. And finally, to wrap things up in this scale, a bit of a whirlpool round. Rampart and Topside never got much beyond their original releases, but both eventually received modern-style updates through the Collectors Club, Topside in 2013 and Rampart in 2018. Tracker also only ever had that single figure, though we did get a fun school release in India with a slightly different deco, which didn't really do anything to improve this rather odd choice of uniform. And that is some seriously rough card art. Kinda looks like someone I've seen before. But hey, inflatable raft with oars. Anyway, our favorite resident Debbie Downer, Wet Down, got his only figure in 2001, and fittingly, it was little more than a straight reuse of the original 1984 torpedo mold, accessories and all. Fortunately, Depth Charge fared much better, with his toy released in 2003 as a deluxe figure, packed in with the Wave Crusher water sled, and he even got a re-release in 2005 in a different color, so good for him. And finally, we've got the larger 1/12 scale figures from the GI Joe classified line, arguably the best modern renditions of our real American heroes, riding on a serious wave of nostalgia in 6-inch form. And unsurprisingly, leading the charge out of the water are the heavy hitters, Shipwreck and Torpedo in 2023, followed by Wetsuit in 2025. Nothing too crazy here, just clean, faithful updates of our favorite H2O heroes from the 80s. And the best part? We're not done yet. Hasbro's still diving deeper into the franchise, and who knows what's next? A HasLab whale? The flag? Or maybe, just maybe, Wet Down is not frozen out of the fun and finally gets his shot in 2027. And speaking of frozen, if you want to check out some of the water-adjacent Snow Joes, I've got their story right here. Or if you want to see my latest video, you can find that over here. Either way, thanks for watching, and I hope to hear from you in the comments below. Who was your favorite GI Joe bath time buddy? Go ahead and tell me your story.